Okay, one more day, 10 minutes to tell you about the Romans. This people ruled the known world, the Western world, for about 500 years. Enormously important, and yet I choose to go through them fairly fast. Partly it's because so much of what they did was they copied the Greeks, but I just choose to. To give you a little bit of a handle on the history of it, Rome was a republic for quite a while, up to about the time of Julius Caesar. Now that very famous assassination of Julius Caesar, I think it was in 44 BC, that was kind of around a turning point, and from that, not long after that, we go into a period called the Roman Empire, where Rome was an empire. And there was a bad period in there. There was some pretty nasty stuff went on there. I call it a bad period. For example, Caligula. If you look up about Caligula and his family, it's pretty bad. You've got the Colosseum at a certain point. That is so famous. And if you want to see the movie Gladiator, that gives you a view of that Colosseum. I'm never sure if I'm spelled that right. I don't know. There might be two L's. I don't know. And then by around the year 450 AD, it didn't happen just instantly, but then the Roman Empire collapsed. And with the collapse of the Roman Empire, that basically ends the classical period, which is where we've been for 2 months in this course. Well, all right, in terms of what did they leave us, what's classic, what do we still value? Well, for one thing, there's ruins all over Europe. I was in Paris last June, and there, I wish I had gone closer. I had a chance to, but I missed the chance. You could see the remains of an aqueduct. This is in Paris. Also, not far from Notre Dame de Paris, that famous Notre Dame church, you can go and see the Roman baths. Now, I did do that. That's at the Cluny Museum, or Cluny rather. And within a walking distance of there's a little Roman arena. In London, you go to the Tower of London, which, everyone go to London, they want to see the Tower of London. Well, you walk right by a Roman wall. London was Roman for, 400 years. It was a Roman city, and it remains. And of course, Rome is full of. So anyway, you see these ruins, and people like to see them, of course. Anyway, in addition to adding to the copy the Greeks, in terms of art, I find it very difficult to tell any difference between Roman art and at least later Roman art and the Greek art. But they added to engineering. When it comes down to it, they surpassed the Greeks, I think you'd have to say, in terms of engineering and warfare. They really could put an army together, which is one of the reasons they conquered the Greeks. Although when they conquered the Greeks, they then used what they didn't just wipe them out. They recognized that here was a superior culture in many ways, and they used them. Made the Greek slaves teach their children in some cases, I think. Examples of this is roads. All over Europe, they built these roads at great expense and great trouble. But it's hard to imagine a world without roads, just paths, or just hard to imagine. That's what Europe was before the Romans. They built roads, they built bridges, aqueducts on bridges. What I like to show the kids when I have a whole class period, I'm putting these classes into 15 minutes or at most 20, and in school I had 42 minutes. I had 40 minutes, and I would use these clips. Well, I would use engineering and empire, the Roman part. I like to show how Julius Caesar built a bridge across the Rhine River in, I don't know if it was 3 days or 4 days, and then got to when he came back, he tore the bridge down, they were just such good engineers. That army, as it moved along, it was not just an army of soldiers. They were craftsmen, there were carpenters, there were masons. Really wonderful. Aqueducts, the importance of good, clean water, we just take it for granted now. The Romans knew about it. Some people believe that what made the Roman Empire collapse was the fact that the barbarians broke up the aqueducts that supplied Rome. And these aqueducts were, you know, when they'd come to a valley, they would use arches, always semicircular. I should have written in here semicircular arches, you know, to go across the valleys. Wonderful, wonderful things. Catapults, you know, they're military machines. Catapults, I think at an early age, they, at least for boys, that fires up their imagination. I got to make a catapult. Arches, yes, semicircular. Semicircular. They are fairly easy to build. Matter of fact, I have some on this very farm, and at a certain point, maybe over Christmas vacation, maybe I'll do a little video field trip and show you some of these arches. All right, boy, I hate to just leave it as quick as that, because these Romans were fabulous engineers. Well, and law, what's his name? The code of Justinian's Code. He basically codified law throughout the Roman Empire, and so much of our modern legal system is based on it. All right, one other thing I'll mention here is I'll talk about Cleopatra and the Egyptians and Brutus. I'll do that later on, I guess, when I come to Shakespeare again. Anyway, Caesar's commentaries on the Gallic Wars. When Caesar went up into northern Europe, he conquered what's now France and even made it into England. And he wrote commentaries. Well, that's a journal. He wrote on a fairly regular basis. I don't want to say every day. And sometimes I like to call Julius Caesar the first journalist, because he kept a journal. And I've read it. It's interesting because it gives us maybe, I don't know if it's our very first, but first good look at Northern Europe. What people lived like in Northern Europe before the Romans got there. And that's of particular interest here in the United States, or at least in the school district that I taught in, because so many of our ancestors, mine for example, you can tell by the color of their hair and their skin that they come out of Northern Europe. So what did their ancestors live like before the civilization of Rome got there? All right, well, I guess that's it. I'll see you, I've got one more day until Christmas vacation, and I've got some plans for tomorrow. And we're going to leave the Romans behind with this. I hope to see you tomorrow.